Everyone ready?
Yeah, I guess we have to, we're on now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the October 16th meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Please take note of the exits around the room. In case of emergency, now join us as we salute Old Glory. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is a new public hearing for the Sake Brewery. They're making some minor changes, well, maybe not minor, making some changes to the wastewater treatment facility. It grew a number of square feet, about 956. It's been relocated by 80 feet, so it's closer to the nearest building, and it's also further out of the adjacent area to the stream. Making a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Roberts, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for journeying up in the wet.
Yes, no problem.
Let me turn it over to you. What would you like to add?
Sure, the only thing I'll add to your summary of what we're asking for is just generally, we were at the ZBA last month and we are back before the ZBA next week for the public hearing. Word is that they intend to take an action next week, so long as your board feels comfortable proceeding with seeker tonight. And besides that, the only other thing I'll comment is that we got the stormwater memo from your consultants, which confirmed that they were okay with our minor modifications that the changes resulted in.
We have a letter of recommendation to the ZBA prepared. I believe I sent that to you, Mr.
Yes, you did.
Sarah? Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Yep.
We also have a resolution prepared to reaffirm seeker. In essence, there was a little bit of delay in getting the letter because there was some question over the square footage involved of new impervious.
Yes.
This was all resolved, and it was actually in Ms. Roberts' original letter. What happened was that the confusion was that the facility grew by a little over 950 square feet, but there's only 770 square foot of additional impervious, and that's because it got moved over onto it was already impervious product in the first place.
Correct. It's in effect taking over impervious that was already there.
And we have the letter tonight from Mr. Sotero saying that there are no impacts to the to the stormwater pollution prevention plan. So, comments from the consultants?
Nope. So I just wanted, Liz, I didn't see the memo.
Do you want me to summarize this?
Would you
It's
mind?
pretty, you can read it into the record. It's pretty short.
Pretty short.
Right, just confirm that
Okay.
your office did make
Well,
that finding.
basically Pete did a review, conferred with me, conferred with Stu and Kate for clarification, and his conclusion is, well, here's the narrative. The increases in impervious is 770 square feet. The increase in impervious results in insignificant increases in the SWIP calculations, and Amendment 1, he's referring to SWIP Amendment 1, contains the applicable revised tables based on SWIP Amendment number 1. There are very minor increases in the design calculations. The design and sizing of the stormwater facilities outlined in the approved March 27, 2019 SWIP are unchanged. So basically he's saying there's no change from the prior SWIP. The amendment just proves it out.
Okay.
So he agrees with their conclusions.
Thank you. Any comments from the board or questions?
Nope.
No.
Would anyone from the public like to speak about this application? There being no comment. Let it go on the record that CAC board member Susan Maresca is thrilled with the application, which is always good to hear. Anything else you'd like to add, Ms. Roberts?
No, nothing else to add at this point.
So making a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait. Do we
Adjourn.
want to just keep it open
Adjourn.
until the variance is decided?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're
Just
right,
in
we
case
should
it goes for
adjourn.
an extra month for some reason.
There you go.
So after we close the public hearing, we have 60 days in which to take action. Ms. Polidoro is erring on the side of caution to say that just in somehow if the ZBA doesn't take action and drag this out, we couldn't take action without them getting the variance. Interestingly, the variance has actually already been granted. It was a bigger variance because they have to grant the minimum necessary. That's why they're back.
No, it's because the size of the intensity of the variance and the location of the building has changed. So even though it's a smaller area, it's a larger building in a different area.
Got you. Thank you. Okay. So may I get a motion to amend the last resolution so that we adjourn this to
Yeah, there was no
November 6th.
vote, but
no, we'd have to, not November 6th. The ZBA would potentially take action.
No, they're meeting in
The ZBA is meeting next
next
Wednesday.
next Wednesday.
So just till November 6th?
Mhm.
Okay, so who made that, who made the motion?
So moved.
Diane just
did.
made it.
Ann and Ann.
Ann and
Ann
Ann,
and
yeah.
Ann.
And
And I
Ann.
seconded.
Can you amend your motion to?
No, I believe it was
Diane,
Diane.
okay.
Diane started the, yes.
Diane, can you amend your motion so that it's adjourned rather than closed?
I amend the resolution to be amended to the meeting of November the 6th,
Public hearing is continued to
Public
November
se-
6th.
with the public hearing continuing until November 6th,
Thank you.
2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Both hands. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about that. It is
Thank you, everyone.
better. I think 60 days, we'd have plenty of time. That's why I was ready to close it, but that's okay.
No problem.
So first, who has this resolution?
I have it. Town of Hyde Park Planning Board, resolution to reaffirm prior secret determination of significance, negative declaration, Sake Brewery. October 16th, 2019, resolution number 2018-25G. Whereas, now therefore it be resolved that the planning board hereby reaffirms its prior determination of significance, a negative declaration adopted on September 5th, 2018, determining that the amended site plan will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Everyone had a chance to read the letter I wrote to recommend that the ZBA grant their request?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Making a motion authorizing me to send that to the ZBA?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Ms.
you,
Roberts, a
everyone.
pleasure as
Thank you.
always. Have a
Yes.
safe drive back.
Thank you very much.
And good luck
See
with
you
the
all
ZBA.
next month. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a workshop, MINTZER Solar Array. Applicants are not here.
Well,
We can still discuss it.
Still discuss it, provide guidance via the airwaves.
So in essence, the applicants are proposing to erect two 30-panel solar arrays, each about 20 by 35 feet, at a site visit for the adjacent parcel, Statsburg Storage. The members present all had the opportunity to walk over. The area to the east that's proposed for the solar array area would be screened by natural rock outcrop. There's a smaller rock outcrop or rock ridge running along the east side. Ms. Axelson will be pointing out in just a few moments that she went by and did a site drive rather than a visit and believes that additional landscaping is merited. This is also in the CPL memo that you would have received since the last meeting. In addition, they're also doing some other small items. They're proposing to add a small sidewalk, 2 sections of fence, and a pad for a piece of equipment. I think I've summarized that about correctly. A little shed, a little storage shed. That's basically all the things that are proposed. Let me just turn it over to you, Liz. What else would you like to add?
So, when I did the site visit, I basically stood in the driving lane when there wasn't traffic, because I'm 5 feet tall. So if somebody's sitting in a car, they're just a little bit lower. So it worked out, and I took more shots than you saw, but the idea was to figure out, what do we need to do here? And I also looked at the existing landscaping, which I'm sure you all saw. So most of my commentary in the beginning has to do with saying to them, well, first of all, label what is actually existing from the approved plan, show as proposed the items that need to be replaced, and then recommending, if you're standing along the Route 9 frontage, here's the building, here's the driveway, here's the landscaping, and behind it is the rock outcrop. And there's just a little bit of area around the north end of the rock outcrop where maybe there could be a cluster of some kind of evergreen planting. And, you know, the way I left this, my comment 1C is discussed with the planning board. I said spruce is preferred, but they had recommended the
Green giant, thuja.
the green giant, and I didn't know if you wanted that instead. This is your view from the road. If you're coming southbound, the building pretty much hides things. If you're northbound, you know, the rock outcrop does a lot with the weeds on top. Yeah, I mean, it
Does.
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 Pollinator plantings. But a few evergreens would probably be good.
Board, you get,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, does the board agree? We can each answer
Oh,
when we go around, but I think
Okay.
you're going to find people agreeing with that.
Yeah. Yes.
Nope.
Kind of indifferent. One, can you get evergreens to grow in there?
It's
Being it's a rock outcrop, I
It's a
don't know
tough,
how
no,
much.
it's a tough site. Liz, do you want to come over, do you want to take the plan out and show people where you're talking about planting this? There's some discussion.
I mean, my feeling was it's 156 feet back from the road, so in one direction, and it's only
You're
two
not gonna see it
20-foot
come
arrays.
this
Could you,
way.
Liz,
Really bad.
would it be
This
helpful
way
to
you
put
got
it
the
up there
outcropping
so
with
everyone can see or
weeds.
no?
What?
You're going 55 miles an
Is
hour.
that too small?
Or can I just put it on the desk?
Sure.
Well, we tried to.
You want this one?
We have one right here.
We have one right here. we're
I have one
looking at.
bigger. We're good.
You guys have this.
So the general area, do you want to point to where you're, point out where you're looking at?
So what we're talking about here is there's the driveway, sort of the midway along the frontage. This is the mostly non-existent landscaping that was approved. Here's the rock ledge to the east of that. And the idea is that in this area, north of the rock ledge and immediately west of, I guess that would be the refuse enclosure,
Mhm.
there may be a little bit of room. And the reason I'm thinking, closer to the driveway would be better, because I'm guessing that the rock ledge is at quite a shallow depth
Mhm.
right next to it, so I don't know.
So I said it's up to the board. Basically, the screening, so what was approved is not necessarily here, correct?
I believe,
From the original site plan?
I believe
Yeah,
that the
there's-
spruces are there, they're little,
They're little.
they really are.
And they're growing.
They're
There's
maybe
Yeah.
one dead
4, 5
one or
tall.
Yeah.
two dead ones, which he's gonna replace. Good. He goes, yeah, I'm replacing those as we do
Right,
that.
and then I couldn't tell if what was existing, it looked as if there were 3 popcorn views, but I'm not very good at identifying them. And what are these?
So the question for the board is, do you think additional landscape is required? Because if he puts in this should actually help function as screening.
Yes.
I mean, I drove by, it's 150 feet back, it's two 20-foot arrays, with it, and it's so momentary. You're basically when you're going south.
Stop and look.
Yeah, when you're heading north.
Because you're going 55.
You pass it before you actually, it just happens quickly, so my feeling is that we shouldn't require him to.
Me too.
Is this additional, or is this, because I thought I also read that some of the original landscaping is not there?
It's died, he needs to replace it.
Right,
So this would be
which I
additional.
think is what,
Additional. This would be
oh,
additional.
okay,
I know
okay.
As long as he replaces the dead ones.
Yeah, as long as he
Yeah.
replaces.
If he replaces the dead ones, he doesn't need.
Right.
Yeah, because it does look bearish, but that's because some stuff has not survived.
Maybe we want him to replace them with some taller ones.
Well, they'll all grow,
Maybe that
right?
would be,
Mhm.
They'll end up growing.
If they're watered.
yeah,
Taller.
just a little bit tall, whatever was there.
Because these are the spruce
Water
that are,
hose.
they're little bitties.
That's
They're-
what I mean, maybe you could put something in that's a little bigger. Taller.
In lieu of one of these things in the front, or?
Well, part of this part of it is that the spruces that were to be planted were supposed to be 5 to 6 feet in height,
I don't think.
according to the landscape planting schedule.
They were
They were?
they're as
Okay.
tall as I am, so,
Okay.
Then that's good
So we
enough.
should just stick with what's on the
yeah.
approved plan.
So we'll just make sure that they re-put in the,
Replace.
whatever's not placed in the
Yeah.
original
Replace the
landscaping.
dead
Okay.
ones,
Yep.
right.
So nothing additional.
Thank you.
But thank you for that
They have to
analysis.
replace-
Yep, it was fun.
Other comments? Liz?
The arborvitae that is proposed immediately north of the 2 solar panels, when I looked at the illustration, it looks like it might actually be 8 staggered. It's really hard to tell, so
I thought there were 4.
it's an illustration that's inserted in a letter,
Oh,
and
that's
it's
right.
not
Oh.
very clear.
Not on the drawing.
And
It's not on the drawing.
in any case, if 8 is too many and the board doesn't think that's necessary, we can say so, but I didn't want to undercut.
No, at the agenda meeting, my comment was I couldn't find anything in landscaping. It's because it was inserted separately.
It's a letter.
It's only on this, right?
You're trying to block the view from the
Yes.
north?
It would be the view, it would be buffering the view from South Cross Road.
Right.
That's
I mean,
pretty-
4 might do it. I think if you're obscuring the view, that might be sufficient. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't have a problem with looking at solar panels, but the board has heard public commentary where
I just found it.
people are
You're right,
concerned.
it's very unclear. It doesn't, I thought there were 4, but it could be 8. Chris, are you familiar with this piece?
Each
This
one has a
variety?
little shadow, yes.
The green giant?
Why is it putting it in?
So green giant gets really, really, really tall, like
But does it
50
get
feet.
thick?
If-
Yeah, it'll get thick.
It'll get thick if you leave them fairly far apart. If you plant them as close together as they are, it's going to form a hedge.
Okay, so maybe 4, what it may look like is
I would say
appropriate.
this is 8.
This
It
is,
looks
This looks
like-
like it's 8.
it looks like it, yeah.
So they'd be planning to create a hedge, and if, in effect, it's also worth noting that the house that's, or the private residence that's on the other side of South Cross is sits a little bit higher, so it could potentially look down at the arrays.
not so much.
But
Not so
I think
much.
that's why they're trying to
Yeah,
screen in this
yeah.
area, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
That's basically it.
So 8.
So include them and show
They
them.
should be
Those
shown in the-
plantings are like right across from the driveway across that street,
Yeah.
so that would definitely help
Right.
to,
Right. One of the comments that Liz has in there is that I would like to have circulated this,
I
but
know.
it's not really ready to go yet, because the plans themselves, the plan has, it
Missing
doesn't,
information.
it doesn't
Yes.
include the landscaping, it doesn't, there's a lot that it
It
doesn't
doesn't
include.
have a zoning table. Their zoning table has to be expanded because there are now 3 things where you have to show setbacks
And coverage.
and coverage.
Well, he
And the
shows,
coverage is-
he says 9.54% coverage.
I find that
Just
hard
pointing
to
that out.
believe. Yes.
At any rate, this is an attempt to put a lot, yep, you're on right now. Sorry. We're discussing your application,
come on up, right?
No. So, yeah, come on up.
Come on.
Are you,
can
pre-
sit there and speak in a microphone if you like.
so, one of the issues that we have before circulating is not everything is shown. The landscaping is shown as separate insert. It needs to be shown where it's going to be here in the number of the green giant thuja. We just discussed, Liz in her memo had put in the possibility of adding some additional landscaping over here, but the board felt, over this area, but the board felt that if all the landscaping that was initially approved, some of which has died, is put back in, that will provide sufficient screening, so there's less screening there. We were just inquiring how many of the green giant thujas you're planning on putting back here, arborvitae, you're planning on putting back here. The letter looks like it's 8, do you know?
It's the one right along South Cross Road up at the top of the hill.
Originally, we had put in for 4, but we are open to as many.
Well, no,
as
we could, I thought you said 4, and it looks like there's shadows, looks like there's 8 here, and we thought that might be overkill.
We thought so too. I mean, 4 would eventually.
Make sure you're speaking into the microphone.
Oh,
You can-
okay,
You
yeah.
can
So-
position it, that's
Yeah,
okay.
so 4 we think would be enough, although it could be more if that was deemed necessary.
I don't think so. Liz, any other comments you want to direct? Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, can you state your name for the record?
Yes, Tate Lacey, New York State Solar Farm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the main thing I was looking for was guidance on the landscaping from the planning board. If you think 4 of the thuja green giants is adequate in that corner, then
Do we need a minimum planting height specified?
Yep.
It sounds like a good idea.
right. And, my commentary says provide a landscaping planting scheduling indicating symbol, quantity of trees, botanical name, size, et cetera. So, and a planting detail. So
Sure.
most of the commentary has to do with kind of fleshing out the plans a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
What's the
Absolutely.
considered a viable height, Chris?
I'd say 6 feet.
5 to 6.
Yeah.
And now that I'm looking at the narrative, it actually says 4 to 6 are planned in that area, and planting is placed no later than April 15th, 2020, in the next growing season.
If that is acceptable, if it would be needed to be earlier, our just thought was in the spring would be the easiest for the trees.
Do you plan on installing the panels this year?
That is our thought.
And as a board now, do you want 4 there?
So,
I think we should rely on, Chris,
I think 4 is fine.
I think 4 is fine too, myself. Again, that just gives them more room, they grow really
They
big.
do
That's
grow
fine.
really
It's
big,
gonna be
but it would be acceptable for us to put in 6. It's acceptable.
Thank you.
Well, if the board's okay with,
4 is fine.
I'll do
Okay.
an updated comment letter. And there's an illustration of, in a letter, of the pile and array elevation, which is a side view.
Yes.
So we'll need that put on the plans, and then
Okay.
we'll also need sort of a top-down view.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen these comments?
Yes, I have
You
the
have.
engineering report, yes.
Okay, good.
And I was mostly aware of the additional landscaping along Route 9, but it sounds like you've talked about that already.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think it's a matter of just replacing the existing landscaping in the front part of the property.
Whatever's done.
Can I
And-
ask a question? When replacing the landscaping on Route 9, is it possible that it be more mature than what was originally planted?
If that's what we would make the approval. Just remember
You
that
could
the
specify that.
the
I mean,
more mature, the more expensive, and also sometimes the harder for it to take hold.
Yeah,
root.
no, I'm not talking about replacing with an 8-foot tree or something, but some of the original landscaping was quite miniature. So we can do something between
I think it
miniature
was 6
and
foot.
mature.
It just
You know,
looks
something
back as
around
it
4 or
died.
5 feet is all I'm really looking for.
Everything that I saw on the approved site plan was, the minimum was 5 feet.
Well, so what the schedule says is 2 gallon for the dogwood, I don't know.
Which could be smaller,
Yeah, and then 2 to 3 inch caliper for the hornbeam and serviceberry.
which is going to be
small.
about, no, but that's still going to be
That's
6 feet.
pretty decent size.
Yeah.
I guess the question is whether those sizes were actually planted, because the trees, trunks look pretty lean.
When they die too, that doesn't help.
Right.
You don't see the fullness of the leaves around it. So, but we'll work, we'll work that out.
Okay.
The caliper should be measured.
It should still be the same.
And I'm surprised Tad didn't before granting a CO, to be honest with you. So, but we'll work with Tad on that. Any other outstanding issues?
The other comments are just to add the details of the solar panels, and that plays into, impervious surface,
Sure.
which is the array
Yep.
itself. The zoning table needs to be beefed up, things like that.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's anything earth-shattering in the commentary. A
So-
lot of notation to be added from the solar law, so.
Part of the issue is that I believe Mr. Terums did this. So I'm sure in an effort to save expense, he put everything on one sheet. It's usual that we see proposed and existing. He has kind of everything on here, so it was harder. We know what the color coding means, is that's new. But for DC planning, it's typical that they would like to see a more complete application. And otherwise, when we have to refer this to them by state law because they're on a state highway. But if it's not complete, they kick it back, and if they kick it back, then it's another 30 days when we send a new one back. So
Sure.
we have a resolution prepared tonight that will type the action, and it includes a note that we can refer it once revised plans are submitted. So it would behoove you to make sure that you get with Mr. Terums to make certain that he does these fairly quickly, so we can get them over to county planning, because the 30-day calendar or clock starts the actual day that it's put in the mail, not the day we do the resolution. So we need to have those plans put over here fairly quickly if we want to get this going this year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, our goal was to understand exactly how to give the input to Paul so that he knew exactly what needed to be on there.
Well, Liz's memo is pretty specific.
I was going to say it's very specific, so it may mean.
It's
it may
pretty
mean-
instructive.
It may mean that there need to be 2 sheets, in other words, because
Okay, got it.
that's a lot of data to cram on here,
Agreed.
just one sheet.
Right,
And
you
if it's
probably
a-
want details on the second sheet.
Right.
And do you need to see what the shed's gonna look like? Do you need to see what the fence is gonna look like? Those are, I don't know if you need those details or not.
The stockade fence, to me, no. The board members, when I call them individually, can respond about the shed.
I think it'd be good to have a detail, though. of the
Usually we just
fence.
see a typical shed,
Mm-hmm.
but,
There.
oh, it's already up.
We were on
Right.
site, so.
Oh, yeah.
It had been added.
Okay.
No, it was
I
fine.
saw it, it was fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So we've actually already seen it, in other
Yeah.
words. Okay. One of those situations.
Yes.
If it's all right with the board, if Mr. Terums wants to have direct consultation
Of
about
course
the
he can.
commentary, fine.
In other words, Paul's free to call Liz directly. You can tell him that. Any other comments? Ms. Plato, any comments?
No.
Yes.
Well, Oh, you can just add that in.
No.
We have a resolution prepared tonight to type the action as type 2 because nothing here rises to the level of a unlisted action. And also to send it to county planning once a revised site plan is submitted. If you want to cross out that second referral, we can do that. The only thing is it leaves a little bit of discretion to Cynthia. When she gets a revised site plan, no one's going to check it to make sure that Paul has actually made all of the changes. But I'm sure it'll be more in line with.
Wait, you're expecting the changes to be made before it gets circulated?
Yes. This,
Oh, well,
county
that's
planning
gonna
would
be a
kick this
while.
back now.
That's gonna be a while. I don't imagine he's gonna turn that right around next week and have it submitted, I would think.
Well,
You mean to
that'll be
address
up to
all my
them.
comments?
That's
Or
up to
most?
them.
Okay.
And that's why I said it'd be up to you to put some pressure on Mr.
I think we'll
Tierms
just,
to move.
We
we'll
also
send whatever
had
he
a,
wants and then
an
gets-
ancillary idea, which is consistent with what you had mentioned of perhaps it could go on to 2 pages, is that perhaps that we could do supplementing what Paul is doing, just have the second page be something that we work on at New York State Solar Farm, and we'd be happy to do that.
It's, all sheets have to be stamped by the engineer.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why, right now, we don't really have a complete application because we have letters and drawings from different things, but it all has to be on one sheet, because this is an official record that will go into
Right.
the file that Tad can refer to. So that's why a number of elements that aren't on here yet need to be on there.
So, we're still talking about this authorization. I think they run the risk that their new submission will get kicked back if he doesn't make all of his changes. So whatever
agree.
he submits, we'll send over.
And the reason why we need to do the secret determination is because you're going to the ZBA for a variance. We have to complete secret, the environmental review, before the
Yeah,
ZBA
include
can
it.
legally grant any kind of variance. We have a protocol that we signed way back when I first was appointed, and I was first
Wow.
appointed, where we agreed that we would do the environmental portion review, if it's coordinated with the ZBA, that we would do it, because we do that more than what they do. So that's why the resolution exists the way it is, and we tacked on sending it out so that we didn't have to come back here and us take another vote. It just seems simpler that way and faster.
Okay.
But again, some of the fastness depends on the engineer and submitting the plans. What I suggest you do is you work with Mr. Tierms to say, this is what we want, and he can incorporate, if you send him digital, I think he can incorporate them on the plans. But they all have to be stamped by a PE,
Got it.
under our code.
Yep, that's what we've been doing, and we'll
Good.
coordinate it.
Any other comments, Ms. Polidoro?
That's it.
Let me start to my left. Ms. Weiser?
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Pickett?
No comment.
Before you send to county planning, I think you have to have your square footage numbers jive in the letter. It's 512 square feet, it's 1,512 square feet, not 1,514.
Okay,
It's just a 2-foot discrepancy, but they need to tie.
Absolutely.
okay. Yep, it's got to be right.
Good catch.
Well, I'm not a genius, I just look at 0, 0, and 0 equals 2. 0, 0, 2 equals a 2, not a 4. Then I had to go back and check it.
Any other comments? I think we've already sort of heard from all of us on the
That's
landscaping.
the kind of
That they
information
kick
that
it
holds
back.
up the CO at the end.
Absolutely, yeah.
When they have to
Yep.
come back for reapproval.
That's why I
so.
mentioned it.
Just happened on another application with Mr. Tierms
Just did.
involving square footage.
He doesn't mean it, he's just very, very busy.
We know.
Yeah, you know him well. So we're-
He's a Hyde Park resident, we like working with him.
Yeah, we like him very much.
Vice Chair Dexter, any comments?
I had a comment, I wish Dr. Mintzer was here. I drive by that place every day. And one of the things I noticed in the summer for 2 months, from like July and August, the sun is behind the building, it's actually to the north, and where the kennels are, there's no shade. Oh. Right, and it's only for 2 months out of the year, so I was thinking, should I ask them to like construct something, or do I just bring it to your attention? And, because in the summer, they can put up, like, they've got these like sailcloths or something that you can put up. But I drive by and on some of those really hot days, I'm like, oh, you poor dogs. But only just for those 2 months, so I'm not sure you have to if it's a site plan element that has to be constructed, or it just.
A temporary.
Something has to be there for 2 months out of the year to, because it's directly in the north, and that sun is from like 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night.
Would you like me to give you Dr. Mintzer's email so you could communicate this directly to him?
Sure.
Okay.
I also can communicate it directly to
Okay.
him, because I'm planning
Yeah.
on speaking with him tomorrow.
Okay.
That's fine,
Okay.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure it rises to the level of having to be
No. it's a dog
constructed and be a site plan element.
Is there no way to put a tree to provide shade anywhere near there? I don't think so, 'cause I know what you're talking about.
No, it's, yeah, and looking at the plans, the septic and the sun angle and the septic runs between the fence
Mhm.
and the kennel, which actually was another point I wanted to make, that when they install the fence, we almost might want to see the footings of that fence, because the feed to the septic
Mhm.
goes right behind there. And you can see, it shows the little junction boxes, and I'm like, gee, I hope,
Maybe they can do a retractable awning.
yeah. I just want to say the things on. Yes. Here we are. See that? Comes right through here, and they're putting a fence in here, and I see, it's almost, it's like,
Whoops.
I'm like, wow, that's really close.
Good catch. It looks like it's just, even in scale, maybe a foot off where the line goes.
Not even,
Yeah. That's why many eyes
Exactly.
improve this.
Exactly, we're all looking at different things, so, yeah, if you could just carry my comment forward, I mean, you
And
can
if-
suggest that.
I would be happy to, and by the way, excellent catch. From a solar perspective, that's exactly what we'd expect the sun to do during the top of the summer. It leans back slightly to the north,
Yep.
which would put it just behind the building like that. So, excellent catch, and I will mention it to him.
Thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
I'm fine with no detail on the stockade fence, and looking forward to the landscaping being replaced. Other than that,
Thank you. There's a stockade fence they installed already. I think they're doing the same one.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
So I don't think I need any detail either. Ms. DiNapoli?
My only question is the tree that they were replacing in front, the dogwood. I had asked Chris, is a dogwood so close to the main road a good choice? Is it too delicate in the winter? And he said it depends upon what type of dogwood.
I mean, they're native and should be used. You shouldn't have an issue with it.
Do they like salt?
But they're over by the parking area.
Oh, more back,
They're two by the road.
okay.
It's a tough spot, right? Because you've got
Yeah.
the highway
They're
salt, and you've got rock and
Yeah.
shallow
How
soil.
close to the
it's
road?
Hornbeam by the road.
Yeah, top Hornbeam
Minimal
and,
maintenance.
Service.
Then I must have misheard, sorry.
Yeah, they're over,
Because I would hate someone to plant and spend the expense and then have it die over the winter and have to replace it.
The biggest issue for all the plantings is just proper watering at the first to get it established.
Yeah.
I think that probably what happened was in the rush to get the CO, they put the plants in and then didn't have the opportunity to add the water as they should. And dogwoods can die quickly. Chris can tell you. Once they're established, they're pretty hardy because they're native.
Good.
But getting them at first, in the
Okay.
plantings across from Stop and Shop, some of those had the same issue that the town put in. A couple of them died, a couple of the evergreens died. So I don't have any additional comments. Mine, I think, were incorporated into Ms. Eccleston's memo. So what we'll do is have this resolution ready to go. Have this resolution read. Who has this one?
I do.
Thank you. Oh,
Resolution typing action and referring the application to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, MINTZER Veterinary Clinic Solar Array, Resolution 2019-45, whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as a type 2 action under SECRA, and 2, directs its secretary to refer the site plan to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to Section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, once a revised site plan is submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. I don't think that we're ready. Oh, I also have prepared a letter of recommendation to have the ZBA grant the variance as requested. Do I have a motion authorizing me to send that to the ZBA?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing. When do you guys, I'm a little bit loath to try to set a public hearing right now when we don't even have a complete set of plans from Mr. Tierms yet.
Because we don't know when the 30
issue is we don't
days
know when
are.
the plans are gonna come in.
Right.
So we don't know when the referral will go out.
Unless you set it far enough out, and it's an incentive to get them done.
November 20th is pretty far away.
Well, let's think
November 20th.
realistically, maybe we get, all right, optimistically, realistically. Maybe we get a
Very
submittal
rarely
in.
the same thing.
Well, this is
Indeed.
potentially November 20th, that's pretty far away.
Well, no, because we won't make the 30 days.
2 weeks submittal.
Unless he
So today's the
submits new plans
16th. If they
tomorrow.
get the plans here in 3 days,
Uh,
then
Won't happen.
November 20th is feasible because they would have had 30 days to do their review.
It's always good for us to have a target date to know what that date is, and then we can work toward it. If it is true that 3 days from now would be what would be required for us to meet November 20th, then obviously we could talk with Dr. Mintzer, also talk with Paul, and see if that's possible.
That third date, 3 days from now would be the 20th, that's a Sunday, so it'd have to be the 21st before it could be submitted, unless it's submitted Friday. Sorry.
I'm
Yeah, it's-
I'm just
I mean,
pointing
we
that
not
out.
could-
available
we
for
could
offline
ask county
consultation.
for, County could do an expedited review, it's just that.
Right.
So it's
Maybe we should move it to
possible.
December
They may
4th.
say local,
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Every,
And
even
then-
the solar farms were all a matter of local concern.
yeah, they may not have much to say.
Well,
I'm just,
right.
not that you
But-
would refer it.
Where are they in, at the
December
Z-
4th
where are
would-
they in the ZBA process?
They're not on, they haven't applied yet. Or no,
Oh.
they've applied, they're on the agenda for November, I believe.
Oh, so they may not even get a vote until December?
No, I think they're on October to set the
incorrect
hearing
that-
for November.
That
Okay.
there is a meeting of the ZBA next week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is, and then their November meeting is November 13th,
Oh, they moved it ahead.
Oh.
And
Thanksgiving, so they are on the second Wednesday in
I
November.
just got a note from Dr. Mintzer that he's planning on being at the ZBA next week because they told him.
Right.
Yes.
They told
So-
them.
Potentially be in public hearing.
So theoretically, and realistically, and optimistically, if we were to set the public hearing for November 20th, there could,
That seems reasonable.
things could align. They
They
might
could
not,
align,
and we might
yes.
actually have to then adjourn it
Yes,
again.
and that would allow for a submittal either Monday or
Right,
or
sometime
a week
next
from
week.
today.
Yes, sometime next week.
Why don't you make that to a motion?
Okay, I'd like to consider
you.
the motion of setting a public hearing for November 20th.
Is
So
there a
moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. We'll see you back on the 20th. Please kind of stay on top if you can of Mr. Tierms, so that we can make sure that we have something to refer back to county.
Very good.
And the public, at a public hearing, should be able to reference the same thing that we're looking at. So I would hate to open a public hearing on just this sort of,
Right.
all this stuff kind of not in one sheet. That makes any sense to you. So that does give you plenty of time. In the meantime, good luck with the ZBA. And may I get a motion authorizing me to, did I already ask for this? Authorizing me to send this to the ZBA, the letter of recommendation?
moved.
We did that one.
We did
We
it.
did, that's what I thought, sorry. Okay, thank you very much.
Just
And
so
we- and
I'm
we typed
clear,
the action, we did all
your
that.
preference is for Paul to have it all on one piece
No.
of paper?
No, no.
Two pieces of paper?
You have
Got it.
existing and proposed.
Got it.
The more that is crammed onto one sheet, the harder we have to take a magnifying
Right,
glass to find
exactly.
everything, because of
And
all
the
the
more
notes
notes
saying.
we need, because otherwise,
We
we
need a
don't
lot of
know
notes.
what's required to be built as part of this amendment versus what should have been built versus the first amendment, and
And I do think we need details. I mean, any
Like a regular
proposed,
site plan application.
you know,
Right.
right.
And,
Okay.
and Paul's an experienced engineer.
Absolutely.
So he
is,
knows
right.
what's required and what is not.
Very good. Thank
I
you.
would be
know.
optimistic on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you again. We'll see you in a bit. Good luck with the ZBA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda
Mobile.
is a recommendation for a waiver of site plan. Has everyone had a chance to look at the application and the recommendation?
Yes.
In essence, this came to us a year ago, but at the time, the pump blades, we'll call them, had writing on them, so they were considered signage.
Right.
They removed the writing, so now you have, I'm not really sure what to call it, a decorative element?
Yes.
An attention-getting element?
It's a wave.
A wave, but
A
not a,
wave.
but
A
not a
whoosh.
sign.
A swoosh,
Not a
a
sign.
wave?
Not a swoosh,
It says a wave
Yes.
in the resolution.
in the resolution.
It's a
But
wave.
it doesn't have advertising on it, therefore it's not a sign because of no words. So,
It's
any,
brand.
any questions from the board or comments?
Nope.
Who has this resolution?
Hyde.
You really did go in order. Okay, I'll know that next time.
Chestnut Mobile, 1110 Violet Ave. Site plan waiver, Town Code Section 108-9.4C2, October 16th, 2019. Resolution 2019-46. Whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the request as submitted regarding the addition of 2 red columns, parentheses, waves, 1 on each fueling island, and 2 red projections, blades, one on one column on each fueling island. What is that, 1 on 1 column?
One on one column on each fueling island.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
Sorry.
1 on 1 column on each fueling island located at the Chestnut Mobile, 1110 Violet Avenue, per the waiver request submitted October 1st, 2019 by Lizzie Holloway.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a site plan waiver request for new siding, new windows, and a new roof located at 11 River Road in Statsburg. This has its own statewide area, scenic area of statewide
There you go.
significance. But while it's visible from the state, the golf course, et cetera, it's actually an improvement aesthetically.
Oh, yeah.
So who has this?
Yep.
I do. Resolution number 2019-47, whereas a request for site plan waiver has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Ariel and Tiffany Rodriguez for a new roof, siding, and windows for their single-family home requiring a building permit. And whereas, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the building permit received by the Building Department on September 26, 2019, per the request to the Planning Board dated October 8, 2019.
Second?
Thank you, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is for Belvedere. It's called New 2016. But in essence, this is to revise and amend the conditions of a prior site plan approval. If we recall, the original site plan approval was granted because there were some buildings constructed, things done without building permits or prior approvals. There's an attempt to legitimize and legalize. A couple of the conditions involve the pool. After much back and forth, and I do mean a lot, between the building department and the applicant, the decision was made to remove the pool entirely. This was done. Mr. Temple Smith, the architect who represents the application, and Rod Morrison, who's now working on the application as well, had met with Tad. They requested at the time verbally to her that we amend the condition of the site plan. That wasn't really conveyed until Mr. Temple Smith contacted me. We don't have necessarily a formal request, but I believe Victoria thought that it was sufficient to have an email dialogue. It's still not the best. Would you want him to actually write a formal request for it?
I mean, we did ask for that, but at this point, I think everyone's eager to close out that site plan.
And Victoria and I did discuss it. While one of the conditions just be moot by the removal of the pool,
Yeah.
the other involved adding notation language on the plan, so it's cleaner to go ahead and do it this way, we agreed. Anybody have any questions? I'll add that they would like to, I believe they plan on opening the site up as a restaurant sometime at the end of this month.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm hearing. I have been there. I've seen a lot of the furniture. Everything's in. The kitchen's not operating, maybe the kitchen's there. They still didn't have glasses and glassware out, but otherwise,
easy.
it's very close. The exterior, the grounds are still, we'll call it fluid. Yeah, it's a work in progress,
Is
but
that their CO?
that's what we have to amend this in order to get their
That's-
CO.
yeah, This will get them.
I should add, they have a CO for the main building where where the work's been done for the kitchen, et cetera. It's the other buildings did not have the CO, that's the problem.
But can the,
Yes.
can the restaurant open without this action?
I believe that Tab would prefer this action would happen before the restaurant
No,
opened.
it cannot.
Okay.
It cannot legally open.
Well, that's the only kind of opening there is.
You'd be surprised.
For the public. Well, there should be, anyway. The only kind there should be.
Prior
Yes.
to the grand opening.
Yes. So, who has this resolution?
I do.
I knew it. It didn't surprise me.
Resolution to amend conditions of approval of the Belvedere and Resolution 16-29C, whereas A times, now therefore it be resolved that the planning board hereby amends condition 2 and 3 of the resolution to read as
Yeah.
follows. Number 2, deleted. Number 3, revision of the site plan to contain the following note. If a certificate of occupancy for the Hunter's Lodge and the Zen Lodge are not obtained within 2 years of the date of signature of this site plan, site plan shall expire unless otherwise extended or amended by the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to approve minutes. Cynthia was on a tear, and actually a bunch of them I had already
No.
looked at, but she just hadn't sent them out individually. Did everyone have a chance to review them?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe Cynthia might have caught, Stephanie might have caught something. Did I hear that?
I did, but she corrected it. It was a type, it was minor.
No, again, this is why.
Extra N.
I know.
Oh, no.
I look at everything too, and that's a lot of what I do is correct some of the just spellings because she's typing quickly.
I mean, we don't want to confuse it with a lice outbreak, you know? Talking about nits instead of it. It was,
Someone who was
Late.
not absent ever.
We finished. Paul has, That's good.
We just need to get Paul to do.
So Victoria, a quick question. On the Board of Trustees for Dutchess Community College, we vote whether on minutes whether someone was absent or attended. I was told that's the correct thing to do under Department of State. Is that true?
So, as there's no requirement to vote on minutes ever, and so.
Oh.
the-
I thought to adopt them formally, we
adopt
had
them,
to, we had
right?
to.
Sure, but there's no requirement that boards ever adopt their minutes.
Oh.
But
They have
it's
to be
good
posted
prac-
at a certain time.
It's good practice. So, the boards have different policies. It's appropriate for someone who was not at a meeting to vote on the form of the minutes.
Victoria, can you speak into the mic? I'm sorry.
Someone who's not in attendance at the meeting can vote on the form of the minutes. So, yes, the minutes are there, and I read them, and they seem accurate. It's generally something we don't do here because we just want the people who are in attendance to vote on them.
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I certainly.
Because, I mean, I read them even if I'm not here.
Right, so you know what's going on.
Right.
And I guess if I saw something like, wow, we never do that.
So
Yes.
it's been this board's practice, and most planning boards' practice, to only have the members who are in attendance vote on those minutes, because it kind of gives them a stamp of approval, like, yes, this is an accurate
So
representation.
let's just go right through them. First, making a motion to approve the August 7th minutes with Mr. Oliver abstaining because he was absent.
Second?
So moved.
Yes. I like that the second came out first.
Yes.
Are you trying to get minutes?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Diane.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Making a motion to approve the August 21st minutes with Ann Dexter and Brent Pickett being absent.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Making a motion to approve the September 4th meeting minutes. Everyone was here.
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve the September 18th minutes. Ms. Wasser was absent.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve the September 25th minutes. Mr. Oliver was
I
absent.
think I was here for that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that
Ruh-roh.
would be a correction.
No, that was not a meet, that was the walkthrough.
Oh, that was the special
That was
meeting.
On site for Statsburg storage.
Correction.
but you mean 25th.
Unintended.
Correct, not absent.
Yes,
We're good.
boss.
Okay.
Or
Gotcha,
we would have had you inspect the trees.
gotcha.
May I get a motion on that special meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. And the minutes of the last meeting, October 2nd, with Ms. Dexter absent.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
I
That was good. We've only been here 15 minutes, it's not even late
That was
tonight.
funny.
Second, third, fourth.
Oh, do we have?
So,
typical
now,
rhythm, that's the
I know,
problem.
discussion on local law M. I did not prepare comments for everybody to review because they're not due. We have 3 days. In the interim, Mr. Pickett sent an email pointing out that they have not addressed battery storage and I think that's a great idea
And
because.
didn't we have to amend one of our applications because
did.
they have battery storage?
Yes. So I thought that was a great idea. By the way, I printed both out, and then I printed yours out too, I left both in my printer at home. So you had a
It's just
question?
about the pollinator mix.
Right.
Adding it to I or K, one of those two paragraphs, we're talking about landscaping and clearing and compacting.
So the question Ms. Wasser raised was essentially, and Ms. Axelson, you can listen to this, but
I am listening. I haven't.
should we
looked at the
specify
volume.
pollinator mix when we're talking about landscaping requirements there? Because it's not actually in the solar, it's not in chapter 130, yes?
I'm wondering if you should have a couple different options. In other words, state a preference for pollinator mix, but we did have an application where there were specific areas where they were going to plant pollinator mix in certain areas, and another
right,
mix,
right,
another conservation grass seed mix in another area, so.
And we approved that.
And some places actually do have their animals grazing in there, so they would
Right.
want to have
A different kind of.
different
So
kind
then-
of, yeah.
My comment wasn't specifically pollinator, it was just, should we include something saying
Steer
that the
them,
board
yeah.
has the right to specify,
Pollinator and
the
conservation
that they
mixes?
want.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the location or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
And I think we could actually say if, where no animals, or where animal husbandry is not envisioned, or something like that.
Where what?
Animals, where no animals are envisioned, that we would, because if there's animals, the whole purpose is to leave it as natural as possible, so that they graze on whatever's there, typically.
Just not
So,
goats.
And the pollinator mix?
and pollinator or conservation mix, one or the other, where animals are not going to be used to control. Anybody else have any comments on it?
Just
No,
two
I
quick
didn't.
ones.
Uh-huh.
Number H, where it says agricultural uses, including the raising of organic crops and small animals such as sheep, rabbits, chickens, it says may be carried out. Would it be more encouraging to say shall be encouraged? Is there, I mean, is that just the
There are
minor?
distinctions. No, there are distinctions.
Maybe sounds too discretionary. I don't know that you want the
Yeah.
board
No,
to
no,
appear.
I think
to-
they're saying that it's allowed.
It is.
Right.
So I think it actually needs to say in accordance with the zoning law, because the zoning law has special requirements for animal
Animal
husbandry
husbandry.
and site
Okay.
plans. So it's not an automatic yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Unless,
leaving it
unless they
how it
want to make
was,
it,
yeah.
and like, unless we're trying to get around that site plan requirement.
Because I didn't want it to be shall,
Interesting.
I was
No.
just trying to be more supportive of
Right.
their endeavor. And the other one was under K. It said on the second sentence, appropriate landscaping and/or screening materials may be required. Should that be something stronger than maybe?
Shall be.
Well, shall be at the discretion of the board.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Shall be, so any standard where it shall means required,
Yes,
any standard can be waived based on individual.
Right.
Not necessarily under this is solar. It's a
Oh,
different
right,
chapter.
this is a site plan element. So that shall be required at the discretion of the planning board. I agree. Sorry.
Oh, so if you explicitly say shall be
Mhm.
required at the discretion.
Well, the shall
the
makes
planning
it
board.
more restrictive, and then at the
But
discretion
it
of
grants,
gives
it
us
grants the planning board
flexibility.
the opportunity to,
There may be a circumstance where it couldn't be because it's on rock. landscaping couldn't be provided.
Absolutely, so I didn't want it to be so restrictive.
This is
They couldn't do it
this is
just
good.
because they couldn't
Right.
do that.
This is why I
Yeah,
enjoy these
really down.
conversations.
That's where
No
we
pun
waive
intended,
it.
but we're
Yeah.
Down in the weeds.
This is what happens when the whole meeting runs under 1 hour.
Yes.
We can sit here and
We
do it
can't
around
handle
for
that, we
quite
have to
a
make
while.
it go an hour.
No, as I said, I like all the different components that have been put forward here, and I really appreciate, I say this every time, I don't want to get emotional, but I really appreciate working with colleagues who take this so seriously. I think we have the best board in the county myself. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say
Agree.
that, but I just do.
I agree.
And the best secretary, she made a copy for me of the New York Battery Energy Storage, the guidebook, which has the model law, the
Oh, for the batteries,
permitting,
for batteries?
inspection checklists and all that, so. that
I
cop-
actually have a copy of this myself in color.
And
Yes, I had, oh, you got the color version.
And not to go
I got
Well,
off.
the
this could
original.
go
Oh,
I was going to
as
say.
an attachment
I
to
was
the
going to
board.
say, we would attach, do you want to attach this, your copy? Or
Or you could- Yeah.
do you want to keep, do you want to keep this for yourself, in other words?
She made this, no, I can get another one.
He asked me to copy it tonight. You
And if
wanna
I could
send
throw
that
in a-
to the town board with the law saying you want that included?
Well, it's just for them to reference, if they're going to detail.
There's model law.
There's
I
model
mean,
law
you
in here,
could
so
go
model
underneath there
language,
and just-
so they can add it in for the battery storage elements to it.
Right.
but I want to throw in a plug. The Dutchess County Planning Federation is going to hopefully be offering a course either later this fall or in the spring, because there's now storage systems, energy storage systems being proposed that are of scale, where they're basically the same size as some of our, what do you call it, the substations
Mhm.
around the county. New York State is about to approve those, and so we're, NYSERDA is going around trying to educate building inspectors, planning boards, zoning boards, town boards on what this means in your
Yeah, that's
neighborhood.
part of-
So this is scaled, so I mean, a solar farm can have a battery storage, and it can scale up till it's
Huge.
huge.
Right.
And the point they're trying to do it with the substations is in peak periods, where there's tons of demand, the batteries would kick in to help alleviate the loads.
Yeah, when Tad and I first met with the proponents for the Baxter property, Mr. Baxter's property, Salt Point Solar, when they told us about that this was actually going to be required by the utility, Central Hudson, or Fortis, whatever it's called now. But when they explained it to us, it's because if there's a real demand, they have to start generating, and they can't quite get it out fast enough. If it's already in a battery, they can send it straight up, so it alleviates stresses on the system. So we both said, well, that sounds great. And if you recall, that battery system is about the size of a train car.
Yep.
Like a caboose.
Yep.
They may get bigger, is what you're telling me.
Yep.
And in that instance, we didn't require much because it's in the center of the array. No one could really see it. It may be that at other locations, it would be more visible, so I do think that's a great idea that they address this in the law. And-
Because there's the fire safety where
Yep.
if something happens, can you get the fire department to it? Do they know how to react to it? There's ways of putting the fire out where they have like extended underground pipes that they just took water up to and shoot it inside of the system instead of,
Wow.
Oh.
shooting it, So,
I'll be honest, so I
Wow,
had
shooting the
said,
base of the fire.
when the law was being revised, Attorney Raplansky sent it to me myself just for early comment, and I made certain comments on it, but I'm always looking sort of reactively, thinking, is there anything wrong, or I think that I need to see that pokes out at me? I wasn't looking proactively like you did to say, hey, wait, what's missing? I was just looking at what might be flawed in it, or an error, but I think this is missing. I think that's a great catch.
Yep.
and this goes all the way down to, if you want to put something on the side of your house.
Right,
EV
exactly.
system,
Yep.
Because
whatever.
it's for small
Just back up.
systems as well.
We don't
Yep.
have anything. Right now, you could do whatever you want.
They showed us, or
Safety.
I don't remember where I saw it now, maybe in a training course, but they showed us small storage batteries that would go inside individuals' homes for this.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing these?
Oh, yeah,
They-
Tesla,
Oh, you
Tesla
have
makes
them.
a wall battery. and-
Yeah,
We
they're
have
wall
two.
batteries.
Yeah, they hang on
You
the
all
side,
have them, okay.
Inside or outside,
Okay.
yeah, so, and
So-
there's more municipalities, like instead of having a generator, they ditch the generator and
Oh,
just
for
put in
storage.
Yep.
backup system that is battery storage.
And that makes sense too. So I'll compose a law in the next couple of weeks and send it out to everybody before our next meeting. Anyone else want to add anything else?
No, I'm just glad to see that there was.
I have technical comments, Michael, that I'll send you.
Okay.
But one thing that just strikes me as needing some more discussion is it says no solar farm shall be permitted on ecologically sensitive land or water resources. Ecologically sensitive can mean lots of things. It can mean land that could be potential habitat for the northern
Squirrel.
short-eared bat or long-eared bat. I mean, and we generally, potential habitat, does it mean steep slopes? Does it mean
The question would be, where's that defined?
Yes.
And it seems to grant too much discretion to any reviewing board, because you could say, oh, Lennox turtles are that suitable habitat, so nothing can go there. That may have been their intent, I don't know.
Well, I just think we should talk about it some more.
Sanus West would definitely be good.
Actually, I should add, that was one of my comments early on, was that I like that area, because I don't think that these should be put inside wetlands.
Right.
Oh, I mean, there's a specific
said
restriction on wetlands, but then the next one is
Sorry.
ecologically sensitive land or water resources. And again, I'm just looking for a little more guidance.
Yeah, I'd like to
because-
see something that says as defined by,
Right, I mean, are we talking about
Something.
land that has potential archaeological impact? I mean,
there's potential farmland out there that, it's not being used.
I was going to say, the hard part about having another standard like that is a lot of this land is marginal
Because it's
agricultural.
farmland in the first place, which means it's probably going to be located in areas outward, there's less development, and therefore there might be more sensitive, rare species, et cetera. So, yes, good catch. So you'll send me your comments too? I'll
Yep.
incorporate them?
yes,
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'll have to get this back.
This was a worthwhile 10 minutes appended at the end of the
Yes.
meeting. There being no other
I'm gonna-
business, making a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't suppose that,
What?